Mia had always dreamed of becoming a great artist, someone whose work would inspire the world. But dreams, as she quickly realized, weren't enough. By day, she worked long shifts as a waitress, balancing trays and forcing smiles for customers who barely noticed her. By night, she painted in a tiny, dimly lit corner of her apartment, her hands often trembling with exhaustion. The city outside her window never slept, but some nights, she wished she could. Still, she made herself a promise, one stroke at a time, one day at a time, no matter what. But the road was brutal. She submitted her work to local galleries, rejection after rejection. Not the right fit, not what we're looking for. Try again next year. Each email felt like a nail in the coffin of her dream. Doubt whispered in her mind, maybe you're not meant to be an artist. Maybe you're just another nobody in a city full of nobodies. Then came the accident. One rainy evening, after an exhausting double shift, Mia was hurrying home with an armful of groceries when a car sped through a puddle, drenching her from head to toe. Furious and soaked, she stomped up the stairs to her apartment, only to find her front door slightly ajar. Her heart pounded. She stepped inside. The room was a mess. The little money she had was gone. But worst of all, her paintings, her heart and soul poured onto canvas, had been slashed apart with a knife. She collapsed onto the floor, staring at the ruined pieces of herself. It was over. This was the universe's way of telling her to give up. And she almost did. For 3 days, she didn't touch a brush. She barely ate. She barely moved. The fire inside her had been doused. Then, on the 4th day, something unexpected happened. An old man walked into the diner where she worked. He was quiet, with silver hair and eyes that seemed to notice everything. He sat at the counter, watching as Mia absent-mindedly doodled on a napkin while waiting for an order. "You draw?" he asked. She shrugged. "Used to." The man smiled. "Looks like you still do." He slid a business card across the counter. "Come by this address. I think you'll want to see something." Mia hesitated. She had nothing left to lose. When she arrived at the address the next day, her jaw dropped. It was an art studio, massive, beautiful, filled with canvases and sculptures. The man, it turned out, was a retired art curator. He had once owned a famous gallery and still had strong connections in the art world. "I've seen a lot of artists," he said, "but only a few have the kind of raw energy you have. What you need isn't talent. You have that already. What you need is to keep going." With his encouragement, Mia began painting again. This time, with a fire she had never felt before. She poured her pain, her struggle, and her resilience onto the canvas. Months later, one of her paintings was displayed in a small gallery. Then another, and another. The same galleries that once rejected her were now calling her back. Her work resonated with people because it was real, it was raw, it was hers. Mia didn't become an overnight sensation, but she did become something even greater. Proof that persistence beats talent every single time. Mia's journey wasn't about luck. It wasn't about waiting for the perfect moment. It was about showing up, especially on the hardest days. Success isn't a sudden breakthrough. It's the result of 1,000 tiny steps forward, even when everything tells you to turn back. So if you ever feel like quitting, remember this. The ones who win aren't always the most talented. They're the ones who refuse to stop. Keep going. One step at a time. Your masterpiece is waiting.